Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we are, day after Labor Day, Tuesday, September 3rd, here on the Full Court Press, coming to you live from our nation's capital, our studio on Capitol Hill. We're joined in studio now, as we are every Tuesday morning, by the managing editor of Think Progress. They're all over the Syria issue, as well as every other issue in the news today. Igor Volsky. Hello, Igor. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
And we're talking about the president's decision announced Saturday from the Rose Garden, saying he'd made up his mind a military strike would be justified. The military told him they're ready to go at any time, but he wasn't going to make that move without giving Congress a chance to debate the issue and vote on it, as many members of Congress had requested. One member of Congress, a good friend of ours from the neighboring state of Maryland, Congressman Elijah Cummings, joins us on our news line this morning. Happened to be driving in, listening to the program, and wanted to join in the conversation. Hey, Congressman, always good to have you with us. Good morning, sir.
It's good to be with you.
Did the president do the right thing in asking Congress to participate?
Absolutely. I don't think he had any. Well, he had a choice, but I think he had to do that, and I was glad that he did. I've now, Bill.
I'm going to ask you. The next question is, how are you going to vote?
I honestly do not know, and I need a lot more information. I've attended the briefing, the classified briefing. I sat in an hour and a half, almost 2 hours yesterday, listening to Secretary Hagel, Secretary Kerry, Ms. Rice, Susan Rice, Ambassador Rice, and Clapper of the CIA.
Whoa.
And so I've heard a lot, but there's still a lot of questions that I think any member of Congress who says they're going to vote one way or another, I'm surprised, because I think if you're going to make a rational decision, we have to have more information. As a matter of fact, today I'm going to be reviewing 12 pages of classified documents that supposedly will provide even more data regarding the extent and how the government determined that these chemical weapons may have been used. So but there are a lot of questions, and one of the questions is this. First of all, I'd like to know, if we don't act, what is the significance of that? What are the ramifications of that? Number two, if we go in there and we discover that it's more, that we have to do more than just a targeted strike, what then? Because the president has said no boots on the ground. As a matter of fact, yesterday Secretary Kerry told us that there are absolutely no boots on the ground. I had another question, which I think I'm pretty convinced now. I was asking, was there absolutely these biological chemical weapons being used? I'm pretty convinced that did happen.
That did happen.
Yeah, they had to get past that one. Then They got an answer from my constituents. I'm going to tell you, I have now probably talked to about 1,000 of my constituents, and I have gotten at least 1,000 phone calls, and 95% of them are against this.
Yeah.
And so then the question becomes, and what I'm saying to the administration, since this is so egregious, and I do believe that it is, that is the use of chemical weapons, they need to explain to the public why that's so significant. See, I think that's something that's missing, Bill. You sit there and your guests sit there, and you probably have a pretty good idea of what these chemical weapons can do and what they're all about. But the administration, I think, is talking above people's heads. Because when I talk to well-educated people, they tell me, well, Cummings, look, 100,000 were killed before now. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
I did television interviews yesterday. The first question the reporters asked is, what's the big deal with these chemical weapons? And what I'm saying to Kerry, I've got a call into him today, I'm saying to him that they've got to go out there and they've got to sell this to the American people, too, not just to Congress. Because, look, if I've got 95% of my constituents saying don't go in, That makes it very, very difficult.
Congressman, you say that you're convinced that chemical weapons were used. Are you also convinced that the Syrian government are the ones that launched them, that gave the orders, and not the Syrian rebels?
Yes,
yes.
I am.
Okay.
Based upon all the information that I've seen, again, I'm going to see some more today, but I am. And I got to tell you, I went in very skeptical. And keep in mind, there's another piece of this bill that a lot of people don't think about. You did, and you probably say, Cummings, not 95% of your constituents against this. Yeah, 95%. You know why? Part of it has to do with Iraq. They have that backdrop.
That's the problem, right?
Yeah, they have that backdrop, and they think about, like a fellow said to me, he said, when Colin Powell came on TV, he said, I trusted Colin Powell probably more than almost anybody other than my wife. And he said, when he came on TV and said that, I said, okay. If anybody else had said it, I wouldn't have said okay. And he said, when I found out that he had inaccurate information, he says, well, wait a minute, and then we go to 10 years of war on inaccurate information?
Yeah.
So you got that backdrop.
Right.
So anybody who says, any member of Congress who says this is an easy decision, I don't know what they're thinking about.
Congressman, given the scope, this is Igor Volsky from Think Progress. Given the scope, given Iraq and the history there, are you concerned about the scope of the resolution? There was concern this weekend that maybe the initial language the administration drafted was too broad, and now this effort to contain it, make sure there are no boots on the ground, put some timetables in place of when the administration can act. Is that important to you, that this be a very limited measure?
I'm so glad you asked that question. Not only is it important to me, I would venture to guess it's important to at least 60% of the Congress.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been hearing a lot. And I've gone on record in the New York Times and the Post saying that. The language has got to be narrowed. I mean, when you look at this language, man, we can be at war, and we can be at war 30 years from now. I mean, really.
Yeah.
And keep in mind.
Sort of like the resolution for the use of force in Iraq, huh?
Yeah, I mean,
after 9/11.
And you got to keep in mind the backdrop. That's right. This was about to say, Bill, the backdrop of Iraq. Mm-hmm. And I think Iraq makes this decision probably twice as difficult than it normally would have been. You follow me?
Absolutely.
But see, they got to deal with the public. One of the things I'm saying to Kerry, I got a call into him today. Like I said, I'm going to say to him, you need to have people on TV, on some of these national shows, and the Bill Press show, talking about some medical type, talking about why it is that 98% of all the countries in the world have said that use of biological and chemical weapons is out of bounds when it comes to warfare.
Yep.
That's very significant because
people don't. In our lifetime, they haven't been used really. Right. I mean, we were talking back to
Saddam
World
was
War
the last
I.
one. And World War I back. Yeah.
So people don't fully comprehend it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that complicated is, like I said, the 100,000 that had already been killed before this 1,400 and some had been killed by chemical weapons.
We've heard that, Congressman, from many of our listeners here on the program as well. Well, it's not an easy decision, but you certainly are putting your time and effort into it, and doing what you should do in terms of representing the people.
To me, there are many decisions. Sometimes God puts you in certain positions to make decisions that have nothing to do with politics. It's about what is right. It's about protecting the world. And like I said, I haven't really decided, but I've got to figure all of this out. And I know, and I pray that God will lead me in the right direction.